Hello, my name's Jon Hunt. Welcome to 26-Hour Day. I'm going to be talking about painting digital portraits. As you can see by the title here, painting unique and eye-catching digital portraits. But first, I want to do a little bit of a history lesson, just so you know where I'm coming from. So we're going to go way back in time. We all recognize Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. It's painted around 1503, I think it was. Sorry if I got the date wrong. And then right next to Mona is a painting of George Washington called the Athenaeum Portrait, painted by Gilbert Stuart. And Mona is important for a number of reasons. Well, it's probably the most famous painting in the world. No one's quite sure why, but I think it has something to do with the way she's looking at us. It's a very standard portrait. Painters were painting realistically for many, many centuries just because they were creating records of daily life, and in this case, of a person that had enough money to be painted. But the way she's looking at us, it can be interpreted in a lot of ways, and so this portrait has lasted. You go over to Gilbert Stuart's portrait of Washington, not much has changed. Even in the 1700s, he's three-quarter view. This was meant to be a full portrait, but Stuart never finished it. And the funny thing is, this is the official portrait of George Washington. They used this on the $1 bills. They just flopped it, so he's facing the other way. Then this guy comes along, 1844, Gustave Courbet paints this self-portrait. Courbet was a realist painter, realist in the sense that he believed that painters should only be painting things that they could see with their own eyes. And he famously said, "Show me an angel and I'll paint one." And he created this portrait, which is an emotional self-portrait. He's looking in the mirror. It's called A Desperate Man, and you can really sense that desperation, not only in the expression, but the angles of the arms and so forth. And this was something that was really crazy for the time. People looked at this and thought, that's not a portrait. Why are you painting yourself like this? It looks like nothing to us today, but it was a huge step forward in trying to make portraits that were different. These are a couple of pieces that I did. These are both watercolor, so they're traditional, and also very traditional in the sense that they're straight up portraits. And on the left, Zoe Saldana, and on the right, my friend Janda. Didn't try to do anything too complicated here. Had a little fun with the media. But they're portraits in a very traditional sense. Here is a exercise. This is meant as a straight up exercise of how to paint skin tones digitally. So there's really no concept behind this at all. It's just Idris Elba looking at the camera. And you can see the textures in his beard, the reflections in the skin, and that's really what this was about. So technique and concept are two very different things you need to be aware of when you're painting portraits. You don't want to have all technique and all concept to the point where there's no likeness. So it's always a balancing act. This is a portrait of a painter and illustrator that I really admire. His name is Greg Manchess, and I consider him a master at his trade as an illustrator and a painter. And so my concept behind this portrait was to paint him in a way that Caravaggio or Rembrandt might paint a portrait, but with a little bit of personality to it, where he's looking at us almost as if he's critiquing us. A couple more things that I did. There was a Sailor Moon challenge a while back, and I don't really watch Sailor Moon, but it looked like it would be a lot of fun. I could do my Snake Plissken version of Sailor Moon. And then on the right hand side is my friend Kat, posed for a watercolor painting, and she's also an artist, so I incorporated some of her stylistic designs in the background, and also kind of an interesting head tilt there that you wouldn't see in a traditional portrait. And stepping even further away from traditional portraiture, here is the character of Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road. If you look at portraits of women, there is a tendency to make them beautiful, perfect, everything that you want to see in a woman. Furiosa is the complete opposite of all those things. She just is here to get a job done, and she's not going to be trifled with. And I really wanted to get that across in the portrait. She's grimacing and she's sweaty. The way I approached the brushwork was very harsh and kind of textural. I really wanted to get that feeling of grit that she had in the movie. So this is a fully digital portrait, and I'm using textured brushes. Kind of moving on that track, I decided, after watching some episodes of Doom Patrol, that I really like the character of Crazy Jane. And this is the demo I'm going to be doing for you guys. So I'm going to draw and paint digitally the actress Diane Guerrero as the character Crazy Jane. So my first steps were to watched Doom Patrol, obviously, and then I started hunting around online to find good references. And so I just was digging around, trying to find stuff that wasn't necessarily the first top picks in the Google search. And you would think that if you're going to do a portrait of a famous movie star that you'd get all the best reference in the world. Well, one of the most famous poster artists out there, Drew Struzan, if you look at his movie posters, he wasn't able to get all the reference he needed. Most of the men in his paintings are him, and most of the women are his wife, and then he would have to hunt down photos and superimpose their faces over the bodies. And this is the fun part, going around looking for references. So I'm seeing what pictures exist, trying to get a feel for the character, because again, I'm not painting the actress so much as I'm painting the character. So it's going to be a combination of those things. So the concept is comic book character brought to life on the screen by this particular actress. I also wanted to look up color references. So these aren't necessarily photos of the character, but scenes from the series that had really cool color schemes that I would want to potentially incorporate into the image that I was painting. So this is a little background into how I approach it. And the next part of this will be me actually painting the digital portrait. So we're going to go over to Photoshop now and start painting.